This conference will now be recorded.
I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda this afternoon? Anything down there? What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, public comment. Anybody have any general public comment? We're going to do this 3 more times, it looks like, at least. Any general public comment? All right. Constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. Mooney, I see you got the microphone. Why don't you start?
Good afternoon.
All right, that's leveraging your position. Keep going there, Mooney.
First of all, we had a good Madison Day. We had 326 kids from Woodbury. We had 52 staff from Woodbury. 40 kids and parents from the 4-H club. A couple of projects we've done was painted the chains and posts at the high school, painted the dugouts, fixed the parking lot on the backside of the high school where it was eroding and just tore up, mulched flag poles, cleaned up behind the press box. That was done at the high school. At Hoover Ridge, painted fence and posts and the chains, put down 100 yards of mulch in the trails, the walking trails, and they did it all by hand, no machines. This is just such a great benefit for the county. Ever since we started doing this, that's a lot of man hours, 4 hours from those kids. If you do the math, it's a lot. And considering what we pay for the material and stuff, it gets a lot of projects done that we as a staff can't get done. And that's not saying just me and Kurt. That's Hoover Ridge. That's also the school. So it was a benefit to everybody. It took a lot of time to manage that and to prepare that, but it was a great benefit for the county. In town, we did pull up all those bushes and stuff in front of the War Memorial Building. We're cleaning that up. We're working with the master gardeners to put some native plants in there. So please don't get alarmed to see that bare. It won't be bare for long. We also want to get the monuments cleaned up while we have a chance and don't have anything, no vegetation underneath of it to damage them as well. HVAC, we have a new unit they replaced at the War Memorial Building. We also have replaced the unit at the CID building. They were on our CIP list to get replaced for this year. We got that completed and got that done. Plumbing, we had a leak at the War Memorial Building. It was drain pipes clogged up. It came down into the clerk's office. We cut the drywall out. The judge has been gracious enough to move court over to the big courthouse until we get that fixed up and back together. We got the leak fixed. We're starting tomorrow to put the drywall back. I want to make sure that there was no water behind the wall or anything. We've been drying, we're in the drying process, so we start tomorrow, we're putting that back together. The landfill, we had a DEQ inspection last Thursday, went well. On Wednesday, we were mowing at the landfill and a tractor damaged one of the wells. We talked to CHA. They sent the paperwork in within the 24-hour time period. So the inspection still went through. I'm now just waiting on the process of repairing that and replacing what we have to do down there for that. Hoover Ridge, we installed the new AED with the 911 address. Me and Kirk did that. It worked out very well. We also installed the new water fountain out there, outside water fountain. And that's been it. Any questions?
It's a pretty good list, Mooney. Anybody have questions for Mooney? Is somebody writing a thank you letter to Woodbury Forest for sending
Yes.
some help?
We wrote a thank you letter. We also sent a video of all the pictures we took, and we had different crews go around taking pictures of the work they did.
Excellent.
If you go out to the high school and you see the painted posts out there, it's such detail where it's such an improvement. So yeah, I just think it would be great for the graduation that's coming up, of the cleanup that we did down there. It looks great.
Anybody got anything? Thank you, Mooney. Jerry?
Okay. So this weekend we have the Tour de Masson on Saturday. We have over 200 cyclists registered for that, so everybody be looking out for the cyclists. We are excited to host a new event in Hoover Ridge, National Night Out on August 5th from 5 to 8. The Commonwealth Attorney's Office, Victim Witness, Foothills, SAFE, Attorney General's Office, the Fire, the Sheriff's Office, and EMS will all be involved in that event. A music in the park is June 28th, the Brisk Band, July 26th, Gone Country, and August 16th, Street Survivors, a Leonard Skinner tribute. All proceeds of that go back to the park. Madison Day, once again, going what Mooney said, Madison Day was a huge success. I think we have over 300 people there with different groups, other different groups there too. Mooney was did a lot of planning on that, planning for that, and deserves a lot of credit for that. Summer camp will be starting up at the end of the month. And thanks to everyone who donated today to Hoover Ridge for Give Local Piedmont.
Any questions for Jerry? All right. Greg?
So, we had 60 handled in person, 85 handled by phone, and 27 after-hour emergency calls. Mr. Collier took a online training for a sheltering program, which is hosted by the Fear Free. And also, I'd like to explain to the county.
Sort of. Keep going.
So we operate on like a tier-based system. So you become your proper training, then you pass the academy, completely certified, and you're promoted to a level 2. So with that being said, I did ask Mr. Collier to come with me today to the meeting. I'd like to inform the board that he attended the Rappahannock Regional Justice Academy, where he completed his animal control certification, and he has now been promoted to a level 2 officer.
Congratulations. Please. Absolutely. Hey, really, right under the bus.
Would you like him to give a speech?
Yes, you have something prepared for us, very formal, hopefully with a PowerPoint. Yep. Well, congratulations. We're glad to have you. Anybody have any questions for Greg or Ian? Thank you, Greg. All right, Mr. Wilkes.
Turned it off. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just do a quick rundown. Our report is in your packet with different, DEQ report and our permits report, but it's just a quick rundown. Last month, we did 182 inspections, and this doesn't count E&S or complaint inspections. We issued 109 new permits. Alan in zoning is working on, they had a change in the Code of Virginia, Virginia Administrative Code, dealing with site plan approval. So he's working on adopting, or not adopting it, but revising our ordinance. He's working with Hannon to present it to you. We have hired a new zoning and building permit technician. She'll start June 2nd. And our combination inspector, Carl's been busy. He attended the commercial plumbing class and passed the certification exam, and he just attended the commercial electrical course and is preparing for that exam. So that's kind of the general breakdown. If you have any questions,
When's your new person start?
June 2nd.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Jamie? Jamie, thank you. Alan?
Good afternoon, everyone. So the quick highlights is we are performing some disaster recovery testing right now just to make sure in the event of a catastrophic event, we are able to restore from those backups. We are developing a cybersecurity development plan in coordination with CISA and VACORP. So basically they have some guidelines of what they would like to see in a cybersecurity plan. We are formulating a plan based on those guidelines. I have been trapped in a room with Brian Gordon for the past 7 hours with Jennifer and Ashley over from E911. It's been an experience, Motorola training for the radios. And we also have a new hire scheduled to start on June 2nd.
Good. Questions for Alan? Good work. Sorry you were trapped. Noah?
Good evening. March was busy, 183 total responses. 10 minutes was our average response time. We were able to help green once, orange twice. Our NUA numbers, not bad. We had eight times for 7 hours and 31 minutes. Currently have 2 personnel vacancies. We're currently advertising for those. And excited to announce May 24th from 12 to 4. We'll have a station open house. And as Isaiah Greenwood is one of our newest volunteers. Happy to welcome him in. Happy to answer any questions.
You want to talk, we've got more people than we'll have during the rest of the meeting, I'm sure, based on common sense. You want to talk about the open house a little bit, real quick, while you're here?
Yes, sir. So the county recently renovated the former rescue squad building, and we've transitioned from 1494 North Main Street over there. Full operations are there. This is our announcement flyer that Gavin put together. And it's a great opportunity to come out and see the inside and talk about EMS and ask questions and see our operation.
Good. Everybody happy with the new accommodations?
Very happy.
All right, good. Questions from Noah?
Well, I guess I got a quick one that I was asking to talk to you about. So Noah, the no units available thing, when we request and get mutual aid from Greene or some other county, does that still go on the no units available number? That's still included in that number?
Yeah, so kind of, sort of. So when we staff 2 to 3 units every day.
Right.
If, say, a 4th call comes in, we'll record that as no units available. For the most part, and for the month of March, there was 0 mutual aid requests needed because we were able to clear a unit up to come
In
back.
time.
But at the time of dispatch, they were committed to a call.
Okay,
So doing a quick turnaround and so forth. So, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I still follow this number pretty closely, because at some point, if that number gets too high, you know, this county's gonna have to consider another truck and another crew, you know, so anyhow.
Yeah, one of the
Thank you.
reasons, Supervisor, yeah, we asked to add the mutual aid so we can see, while, yes, there's no unit available during that time, I'm sure that happens in other counties, but how many times do we have to ask for mutual aid? So it was important to show both. There's no way, I don't think right now we track specifically when that unit is back in the county. So it's trying to give you as much information that we do have. But the good news is you're at 0 mutual aid requests from Madison County.
Yeah, all right,
And
thanks.
that's a real big number. I mean, if we're seeing, see from green and orange, right?
Yeah.
We'll keep it at 0.
Yeah,
When we do need to have another one called in, does that time go on our average? So right now, 10 minutes, that's a pretty good time for the county, but does that time get added to that or not?
It's referred to as an exception.
Okay.
So I track that separately for the state, because that's going to make the time longer,
Sure.
right? Having to come from another county.
I thought that was pretty good if that was added, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Chief, to that point, can you speak, because I can't recall if the 10 minutes is in the plan, your emergency response plan, is that the objective, the 10, or what's our
17.
17? So we are meeting above and beyond our targeted response time. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
But you've been consistent in between 9 and 11 minutes on response time for, frankly, as long as I
Years.
remember.
Yeah.
So seeing that consistency is very good and speaks well of everybody. I agree with Cardi, though. It is a barometer moving into this, is when we will have to go to that next level. And it's always amazing how after the first call, you pick up that second call almost immediately, which it seems crazy, but is very much the reality. Other questions from Noah?
I also have Gavin's report.
All right, let's hear that.
So he has an update on the middle school generator. So the installation and construction's complete.
Hey,
They're currently awaiting the subcontractor to finalize the programming between the generator and the HVAC system. However, the generator is up and running. And his second thing, the 2024 EMPG grant, all of the lapel mics have been received and distributed, and the invoice has been received, and the grant submitted for reimbursement.
good. All right, questions on that one? All right, thank you, Noah.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff?
Good afternoon, everyone. Kind of busy through our office. We had 812 calls for service, 199 civil process served, crimes reported 73, and traffic summons 140. I think you have copies of everything else we've been involved in. I was talking to our editor from Rappahannock earlier. Traffic's becoming a major issue, as you all know, on 29. And we mentioned earlier today that we have Tour de Madison coming up. Careful, Friday, Saturday night, we have graduation coming up, and also we have, there's 3 things. Tour de Madison and just college graduation, so starting this weekend. So use caution. It's frustrating to us how much traffic has increased in the last several months, and as the summertime's coming on, it's going to be more and more. So I'll open any questions. We're still at it. We're still 3 short, 2 in the academy, and we lost 1 several weeks ago to Culpeper Town Police for
Your
salary issue.
You are advertising, though, currently,
Yes,
correct?
we have interviews starting tomorrow. Yes.
Good. With applicants?
Yes,
Yeah, how many applicants you get?
I think we have 5.
Good, good. Please.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah,
Yes,
you-
sir.
You mentioned that it was a salary issue, that why the person left, or the deputy left. What was the difference in salary? Can you say?
$10,000 sign-on bonus.
Is that right?
Wow. We can't compete with that. We understand that. Anything else?
Anything? Thank you, Sheriff.
All right, one other thing, I don't know if you've noticed, a certain individual's got something on his finger today, and it's kind of a bright light shining my way, so I want to make sure we congratulate the chairman for
Thank
our
you.
marriage. So
Thank you,
congratulations.
thank you.
I had to do it anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciated it. Ms. Richards?
Yes, sir.
How's dispatch?
It's going well. trying to make the transition as smooth as possible. But stats for the month of April: 911 home phone calls received were 68. 911 wireless calls received were 335. Administrative calls taken were 1715, and administrative calls made were 845. Total calls being 2963. Calls for service for the month were 1,079, and calls year to date 4,236. So we're at 79% for calls received and made for the same time frame as last year, and year to date for calls for service same time last year is 94%. As far as the radio project, a part of that is the mapping. The unit markers have been added to the mapping system for mobile and portable radios for fire department, law enforcement, and EMS. We're still making adjustments as needed. We get in contact with the mapping system and Motorola, and if there's an error that needs to be fixed or a unit that needs to be added, they go ahead and they get on that. We do have one vacancy. We have one dispatcher in training. She'll be going to the academy in June. We did hold interviews last week for the assistant director position. A decision has been made, and that will be announced tomorrow.
Good, good. Questions, Ms. Richards? Thank you very much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Annette?
How are you? The shelter has partnered with the Madison County Animal Hospital to hold a rabies clinic on May the 24th from 12:30 to 2:30. Rabies vaccinations will be $20, and it will be held at the animal hospital, and it is open to the public. United Painting completed the interior of the shelter. They did a wonderful job. It is brighter. It looks bigger. It was much needed. I would love for you guys to come out and take a look on how great everything is looking out there. Weaver Works repaired the drain in front of the shelter. They have also framed in and gravelled the entrances to the play yards. We're just waiting on the weather for our concrete to be poured, and then those projects will be completed. I was contacted by the PetSmart in Charlottesville up on 5th Street Extended. We're already partnered with Culpeper. They wanted us to partner with them to do cat adoptions. I agreed. We've been doing that for a couple weeks now and have already adopted 3 cats out of that location. So we are now partnered with Charlottesville and Culpeper. Our numbers for April: we had 7 strays, 16 owner surrenders. We had 2 safekeeping dogs for Greene County, 8 transferred in from rescues. They were all vetted. We had 8 reclaims, 18 adoptions, and 4 transferred to rescues. And at the moment, we have 9 dogs out the shelter and 1 resident kitty.
Very good. Questions for Annette? Thank you, Annette.
Thank you.
Jim, I figure you're here from the Planning Commission. You want to give us a report from what's going on with it? Take the mic.
Thank you. We're just getting the normal events that we get through. The significant one right now that we're dealing with is this change caused by Senate Bill 974, which will take the administrative review of site plans, development plans, away from the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, place it in the hand of the designated person. So we're working on ordinances on 2 different fronts to deal with that. And they'll be coming before you soon because the law will go into effect 1 July.
All right. Questions for Jim? All right. Thank you, Jim. Ms. Ward, what do you have a report? Welcome. Hold on one second.
Space has been involving domestic violence and untreated mental health issues resulting in family crises through which we're needing to provide supports to families. I am, knock on wood, fully staffed at this point and working to get workers fully trained so we can continue our focus on prevention services to not have families get to extreme crisis levels where court intervention is needed, but to offer services to families before it is just a crisis. So folks are working really hard and it's incredible work.
Questions from Ms. Ward? Thank you, Valerie. I think I've hit everybody. Let's do consent agenda. We've got minutes from 4/10/2025, 4/17/2025, 4/22/2025, and 5/7, which was a special meeting last week. Anybody have comments, thoughts? What would y'all like to do here?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Special appearances, we've got a couple today. Mr. Roddy with REC, come talk to us about the large power. Thank you.
If it'd be okay, I would like our Director of Government Affairs, Ms. Lindsay Watson, to kind of kick the presentation off, and then I'll go from there.
By all means. Yeah, probably. That's probably better. It is a special appearance. We try to dignify such things.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Watson. I'm the Director of Government Affairs at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. As you already mentioned, we have Stephen Roddy here, who's our Chief Financial Officer, and we have Jeff Henry, who's our Director of Member Services and Community Engagement. So I know you all know us well, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of REC just because we are growing, and I want to provide you with an update. And then we want to talk about, in addition to the large member rate filing that we made at the State Corporation Commission, some other actions that we're taking to protect our traditional members as some of these larger customers are coming online. So we serve all or parts of 22 counties across Virginia, going up to the West Virginia state line, coming down across Hanover County in central Virginia, and then going over onto the Middle Peninsula. So we have quite a diverse service territory. We have 18,000 miles of line, which makes us the second largest co-op in the country if you measure them by miles of line. Of course, there's plenty of ways to measure a co-op. We have over 450 employees, 180,000 accounts, which again makes us a large co-op, considering the sizes of some of the others. And then we also have 820 miles of backbone fiber, which connects all of our substations, and over 2,500 miles of leased fiber to the home, which includes our projects with Firefly, which you all have seen throughout Madison County. And I'll go to the next slide. So right now we are seeing a ton of growth throughout our service territory. You can see on this map that we're situated right between Richmond, DC, and Charlottesville and areas in between. So as large customers, often data centers, are moving out of Northern Virginia, they are moving down into our service territory, particularly Spotsylvania, Caroline, Louisa, Culpeper, places like that. So we're seeing a lot of investment there. And as we began to talk to some of these potential members, we became aware that there was going to be a dynamic where we wanted to really work on making sure that our traditional members, our residential members, and our small businesses are not taking on any more risk than possible. So just a couple of stats, and Stephen will expound upon these later, but out of all of these states here that you see, the darker ones are the ones that are seeing the most demand for data center growth. 15 states account for 80% of the national data center load, which is a lot. And in Virginia, this segment of the energy need accounts for a quarter of our total demand. For the future, the trend, like I said before, is coming more into our service territory and some of the other co-op service territories like Central Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, they're getting a lot of interest as well. So in rural areas, there's a lot more space. There's kind of more of an appetite for it sometimes with the tax revenues it can create and things like that. So we're seeing growth and interest from the data centers in rural communities. And then the next slide. So one of the things that we did was we wanted to sort of separate the balance sheet of serving electricity to these very large members from the balance sheet of our traditional membership in the co-op. So to put it in perspective, it took us 100 years to get to 180,000 members. And Stephen has a great graphic about what our historic peak has been and then sort of what we're anticipating. But let's just say it's going to grow a lot. So we wanted to separate those two out, minimize the risk, and we worked on a bill idea that would allow electric cooperatives to serve these large members over 90 megawatts through a subsidiary. And this is a mechanism that our investor-owned utilities like Dominion and Appalachian Power already have the ability to do. So we wanted to have that same ability to protect our members from some of the risks that might come from a large member not paying their bill, perhaps if they go through some financial struggles or go out of business, something like that. This will mean that those costs are separate from our traditional members. So it allows us to meet our obligation to serve, which we have from the State Corporation Commission through a subsidiary. We worked with, well, we didn't work with them, but we got support from Dominion and the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. This also helps, with the economic development part of it, with communities that do want data centers. Obviously, not everyone does. We don't have a position on data centers. We're just here to support our communities with whatever their economic development goals are. And it did pass unanimously in both the House and Senate, and it was signed into law by Governor Youngkin, so it will become effective on July the 1st. And with that, I will bring Stephen up, and he will continue the update.
Thank you, Lancey, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board, for having us here today to discuss this topic. On this next graph, what you'll see is basically the historic peak for Rappahannock Electric over the history for the 180,000 plus accounts that Ms. Watson just referenced is about 1,150 megawatts. As you can see, based on data centers, because of the size and scale of these loads, that we have already gotten interest in over 16,000 additional megawatts on top of that 1,150 megawatts for our native membership. So as you can see, just the scale and scope of what we're dealing with is, it's grand. And on top of that, due to our obligation to serve, we have to figure out a way to do this. But one of the goals we had when we started this process was figure out a way to protect those 180,000 members and be able to make sure that the data centers and large loads pay for their portion of any transmission, any substations, or any infrastructure that would be added on their behalf to serve them. So that's part of what we were talking about with the idea, and that's why we had the bills passed this year. It would help protect our members from and be able to separate the loads so that we could clearly see this. And in doing that, we came up with a novel idea of an affiliate that is, it's a wholly owned affiliate by Rappahannock Electric by the name of Hyperscale Energy Services. It is basically a sleeve to the market, which allows us to purchase and procure energy directly from the PJM Regional Transmission Organization, and allows us to purchase that and send it directly to these large loads. And we purchase on their behalf. It will be passed to REC, and then REC will actually serve the load. And what we've done, even with the bill that we passed this year, would allow for a future option of REC even being removed from that picture and potentially hyperscale serving directly to the load with REC never touching the load. And therefore, what would happen is hyperscale would have owned the financial statements as well, and REC would be totally, basically protected for the most part. Talk a little bit about what got us there. And this is something we filed with the State Corporation Commission, the operating services agreement between Rappahannock Electric Cooperative and Hyperscale Energy Services and any affiliates of Hyperscale Energy Services. The way this kind of works is basically it is the governance for how we will interact with each other, but also how we will serve the end member, which will be the large loads that we're referencing here today. And it was approved. As of February 17th, this OSA was approved between the two parties to help everyone understand how we will conduct our business and maintain that business throughout the future. The process basically is REC builds the infrastructure, which is pre-funded through what's called contribution and aid to constructions by those members. So, for example, if it's a data center, the data center will give us money up front to build the substation so we can order the equipment, the long lead time items, get the contracts in place to build them. And then we actually have an option at the end of this agreement also to what I call settle the financial burdens. In other words, if we collect an amount of money and it costs more than that, we're able to go to them and ask for that money directly. So it helps protect members in that way. And that's just for the infrastructure for the substation to serve them. But we're also asking them to collateralize and use other financial instruments to protect for transmission delivery services, also for construction delivery services. And we request, as you can see, that they basically will sign an additional agreement, which is called an energy services agreement and a power services agreement, which one is for the delivery of the energy and the other is served to actually move the electrons itself, which is the actual energy itself. So we have built in multiple layers to ensure that and LPDF in itself stands for Large Power Dedicated Facility, which means we're trying to make it look like a one-for-one from the market to the customer. Therefore, other members don't carry the burden of any default or any risk associated with these large loads coming to our service territory. Just a little bit, I'll talk just a little bit about the process, then we'll talk real quick about LPDF. The process itself is, what happens is Hyperscale Energy goes to the market, PJM purchases the energy. They will procure the energy, they will pay PJM. They will turn around and sell the energy at cost to Rappahannock Electric. Rappahannock Electric will then deliver the energy to the final member so that to serve that load. And so it basically creates a congruent sleeve that we can continuously move through the system and protect also, again, our native members to ensure that that burden is not carried by the members and the cost associated with purchasing that power is directly aligned with that facility so we know exactly how much, how to serve them, but also how to charge them for that. And that leads us to the LPDF tariff that we filed with the State Corporation Commission on March 12th. Again, large power, dedicated facilities, pretty self-explanatory that it is dedicated to be a rate designed straight for those facilities, and it is for all large loads above 25 megawatts and greater than 75% capacity factors. And the basic elements are, it'll be based upon installed capacity. So in other words, it's not necessarily about how much energy is used, but the amount of energy they assume they can maximize and use. We currently build we have roughly 50 300 megawatt substations being looked at. So that's about the size of each substation is about 300 megawatts per substation. So as these large loads move in, one facility may have multiple substations serving it.
How many megawatts are at Pratt's right now?
I'm sorry?
At Pratt's, which is our main substation, you have any idea how many megawatts that is?
I would tell you, I know it's under 15.
There you go.
I don't know the exact number, but I know
Not
it's
rough
under
is
15.
what I'm looking for. Keep going, please.
Yes. And again, based on installed capacity, but also what we're looking at is redundant capacity. So in other words, if there's failures inside of that, our rate also has built into it the ability for us to basically have enough margin built in to pay for any upgrades or replacements within that same facility. So that is one of the values of this is, again, keeping it focused directly on the facility and looking at the cost of the substation and saying, if we want redundancy, if we need more substations here, this rate also helps build that. And any future requests for new substations will still be going through the construction, contributions and aid to construction process as well. So we've got these agreements in place, and this is what we introduce when we start these discussions with these large loads, what it looks like, what the actual process is. So recovery and O&M of other expenses, so overhead, maintenancing the facility, changing out oil in the substation, any upgrades, just, animal control in the substation, all of those things are also built into what that rate includes, so that we're looking basically to isolate the actual load and basically have the rate manage everything associated with that specific load. And again, it is currently with the State Corporation Commission to review and approve. We don't have an exact timeline, but we are in the process of answering questions and making sure that they understand what our process is and what we're requiring of this. And that's really all I have. I'll stand for questions if anyone has them.
All right. Please, Judd, go ahead.
I guess I don't want to know about the animal control, but you mentioned that, like, I know energy usage is supposed to double in these facilities by 2030. And then hyperscale is buying energy in the open market, I guess? Is that right?
From the market, that's
So
correct.
what happens when there's not energy there to buy? What happens to these large users? Will that ever happen? I mean,
I can never say never. What I can answer is this. I think the United States in whole, not just the PJM market, not just the Dominion service territory, but I think the whole market as a whole is at a time where infrastructure is needed. Every megawatt counts. We need every megawatt. And the goal that we have, and it's one of the things that we continue to talk with ODEC, which is our wholesale power contract, is with our requirements contracts with ODEC. They serve the 180,000 plus accounts that Lindsay referenced earlier. While they can utilize the market just as well as we can to do this, ultimately, can I tell you that we'll never run out of power? No. But what I can tell you is we have a great planning organization at PJM that helps balance that load and ensure that the power is available and also affordable to be able to get to it.
thank you.
Jonathan, do you have?
Reserve after the board members are.
Yes, please, Jim, go ahead.
Mr. Ronnie, just following up on this, what's the projected, or where is the generating capacity going to come for all this increase in demand? I mean, are we looking at fossil fuels, nuclear, renewable? I mean, is there really an understanding, whether it's on a local or a regional or national level, as to where this power is going to come from?
So with PJM, they serve a 13-state territory, and in that territory, like for example in Pennsylvania, there's about 2,500 additional megawatts of natural gas being requested and basically fast-tracked through the permitting process so that can be built. It serves everywhere from basically Indiana over to New Jersey, up almost to New York, and then down into Virginia, and even down into Tennessee a little bit. So the answer is it's a pool of power. It's not necessarily something that's in Virginia itself, but that is something, that we continue to say is we need every megawatt that we can get to serve all load, because the issue becomes is because we have the obligation to serve, we have to go out and fight for that load as well and make sure that that load's available not only to serve those data centers, but also that ODEC has enough power to serve our traditional members. So we're fighting on two fronts here to ensure that we guarantee, no blackouts and power certainty, as I call it.
Mm-hmm. I have a follow-up question. So what is the projected impact, let's look at a 5 to 10 year window, on the price that consumers are going to have to pay for electricity in light of this demand from these hyperscale centers?
Well, I think the real, it's more of a supply-demand issue, not just the hyperscales, but honestly just growth in general. You know, there is a risk of always being short of power, which is going to drive the price up and drive the floor up in a power market. We continue to look at that. We continue to fight for new generation and additional megawatts on the grid just so that we can serve all load that comes. As you know, PJM again does a great job. They have a planning organization that plans for every megawatt that requests power from them as a pool. So they know when to balance that and say, it can't come on, or we don't have enough load at this time. Is there always risk? Absolutely. As growing up as a native Tennessean, TVA experienced their first blackout in December of 2023 during Winter Storm Elliott. So, I mean, to say it can never happen, I can never say that. But what I will tell you is we continue to work with all the regional planning authorities to ensure there's power certainty for the members and also for all load to be served.
Okay, thank you.
No. Is there any direct impact to Madison County citizens at this junction? Other than being protected by having a subsidiary that will take care of these large clients?
I mean, I think the main goal for us was for all members to feel assurance that we're doing everything that we possibly can, coming up with every novel idea we can from a business perspective while maintaining our obligation to serve and ensuring that we separate the types of loads. And that's one of the primary reasons why we even went to the commission with this new rate request. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that we are protecting our native membership so that they are not going to be burdened with any risk associated with these large loads.
Good. Mr. Weekly, please.
I had two. One, I needed to have on screen, so I remember to come back to it. It's public comment. The other, I know there are other utilities besides REC, but we're glad you're our provider. Virginia Clean Energy Act, does that require certain diversification of your portfolio? I know you're responsible for going out and looking for different energy sources, whether it's natural gas or whatever, but is there a certain requirement in that act, and what are you guys looking at? I mean, I know they've talked offshore and different things that Governor Youngkin's administration wants to do, but how does the VCEA control what you guys do as far as meeting those, that energy projection through 2039 is a tall order, so.
Great question, and the answer is no, because there's a specific clause in the Virginia Clean Energy Economy Act that basically excludes, I think it's 9.1, correct me if I'm wrong, but it excludes cooperatives specifically. However, keep in mind, we will be buying from the market, and whatever the market mix is what we'll be providing. We don't have a specific edict inside the law, though, that says we must buy a certain amount clean or a certain amount of a certain type of generation. No, we do not.
You're just specifically looking at how are you going to meet the demand and what's on the market to meet that demand, is what it sounds like.
I mean, I think the demand's going to be met with, one of the things I say daily is we need every available megawatt, whatever that demand is, whether it's solar, whether it's clean. If we need to continue operation of coal, we need to make sure that there's, power certainty for not just the area, but, for America in general. And so I'm very big about, making sure we have balanced power system and the grid is served sufficiently so that we're not at risk.
Okay, and I have two more. I'm sorry I fit there. I thought I had two, I had three. The supply chain, is that improved? I know at one time, transformers and things like that were a little bit scarce. Has that improved?
It has improved. And my group, actually procurement group, as we are, there's upward price pressures on all supply and demand because the supply just did not come back after it kind of left the market in 2020. However, we are seeing more availability of most equipment. Larger and long lead term items have came down to more of a 2.5 to 3 year expectation instead of a 5-year expectation. So we are starting to see some return to normalcy with supply chain. What that will look like in 5 years, I would hate to speculate.
I appreciate it. And certainly we're not known for development, and that's probably a good thing, but anything that we do see on the horizon, we do have an economic development committee now. We will definitely work with Ms. Watson or whoever's office to kind of forecast that with you all, because I know demand and things will be important. Lastly, within the packet, it mentioned a public comment period. So certainly if the board chooses to provide any comments, I believe that's the date we have to do that. And those comments, as far as you know, we are making those directly to SEC, not specifically to REC. Okay. So unless you direct me, Mr. Chairman, I mean, you know, if you favor, you want to let us support, great. If you oppose, whichever, but that is the time period. So that was another reason I wanted to highlight. If Madison has a position, this is how you state that. But other than that, if you take no position, I would assume you support the demand, which certainly my bill at home I would support, so.
I do want to, if I can, add one thing about the Virginia Clean Economy Act.
Okay.
Which is, it does, you know, its goal is to diversify the generation of energy. And there's a lot of caveats in the Virginia Clean Economy Act. It's a very long code section. One of the things, you know, that we've been looking at and I guess paying most attention to with some of these generation concerns is that there are retirement dates in the VCEA. And as Stephen mentioned, we are exempted from it, and ODAC is our G&T, we're just distribution. But because the retirement dates are in 2045 and 2050 for like plants natural gas plants essentially, that prohibits anyone from building any new natural gas plants because the useful life of that sort of asset is 30 plus years. So that sort of gets in the way of financing and things like that. So when we're looking at building new generation, we really are looking at small modular reactors. You know, not we, because again, we're distribution, but energy utilities in general. You're looking at small modular reactors, but it'll be maybe 10 years before they're online. Like you said, offshore wind, solar, things like that. But as we, you know, go down the road, I think that PJM will look at the assets that have been retired, that we currently have, some of those retirement dates, and they'll start asking maybe different things about when some are coming online and coming offline. So really looking at what PJM sort of recommends, like Stephen said, is what we're gonna look at and work with ODAC on. So I think that's sort of the retirement dates stick out to me from the Virginia Clean Economy Act.
Thank you.
All right, other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Snoddy. Thank you, Ms. Watson.
Thank you.
All right, that was exciting, aided by PowerPoint. All right, let's do it again. Ms. Shepherd, come up and talk to us about the quarterly presentation, please.
Mr. Chairman, as Ms. Shepherd makes
Ms.
her way
Shepherd.
up, she'll be giving you the overview of the presentation. I do want to remind members of the board, tonight is your public hearing for that purpose. So after a presentation, whenever you choose to open it up, Mr. Chairman, that is your purview.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Carrie Shepherd with VDOT, here to give the quarterly presentation. I don't have too many updates this evening based on my past attendance, but we can start with the preliminary engineering slide. Pratt's is continuing on through the process of preliminary design. The next milestone will be a public hearing. We expect that public hearing to be late summer of this year. We will have press releases out and have advance notice so you can be aware of when that is occurring. Whippoorwill Road, we just recently completed that. We did the tar and gravel. So that is curing at this point in time and looks pretty nice.
So, I'm sorry, Carrie, that Whippoorwill is complete because I wrote a note here, what does complete mean? So
The hard surface has been applied and
done.
we're done. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I thought you were gonna have, yeah, got it. Thank you.
Next slide. So Route 707 Pine Hill Road Bridge project is still ongoing. Construction's going well. We expect completion in December of this year. We also have Route 656 Courtney Hollow Lane over Polecat Branch. It's a superstructure replacement. That project started in the middle of April and is 4-week duration, so it should be wrapping up here shortly. And then finally, there's 2 traffic engineering studies that we have completed recently. We had a request for a speed study from the county for Route 230 Wolftown Road. We did that speed study from 661 Trinity Lane Road to 662 Shelby Road. Based on our study results, We recommended the current speed limit be maintained at 45 miles an hour. We do not recommend it to be lowered. Part of this speed study looked at the crash data. We did an actual speed study to get the speed data or the counts from actual traffic. And we also looked at the road characteristics and geometry. Based on the crash data, what we found is that it appears that vehicles are not stopping at the intersection at 662 and they're just continuing through. So our recommendations include putting intersection warning ahead signs in place and also putting the red reflective tape on the stop sign to make it more visible to drivers. We also had a speed study for 722 Fishback Road that we actually did the full length of Fishback Road, including the currently posted 35 section, in addition to the statutory 55 section. We completed that most recently, and the 55 unposted section is going to be posted at 45 miles an hour. The existing 35 mile an hour section is going to remain as is. Any questions on those or anything else for me?
Yeah, Carrie, so if I remember correctly, the Etland Road speed study was completed and a recommendation was made for, what, 40 miles an hour?
I believe so.
When will those signs start appearing? When will they be installed?
I will check on that.
Will you? Okay.
Yes, I will.
And
I thought they were.
so I was thinking about that the other day when I was driving up the road. So I kept my speed limit at 40, which I don't usually do on that road. It really should have been 35, but whatever, 40 will help, because there was a lot of traffic. I guess Graves has had a thing going on with their motorcycle thing and whatnot. It was a beautiful weekend. And 40's even too fast. But I'd like to see those speed limit signs go up as quickly as possible.
Yes, understood. I
All
will
right,
check
thank
on
you.
that.
All right, other questions from Ms. Shepherd on the quarterly report? Yes, sir.
That one does have multiple overnight closures. However, access to property owners' driveways should be maintained. Is that not the case? Or is that the? Okay, we're not gonna not allow people to get to their homes. If you do have concerns, I can talk to the construction group and we can get a better update for you so you can understand exactly where we're at. I can definitely do that, give you more information.
Yeah, what about it? Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. We've been maintaining access throughout the project. It's not our intention to not have access, understanding it is a dead-end road. And they also make provisions, especially when it's a dead-end road, that if there's an emergency, we have a way to let emergency vehicles come through.
Good. Thank you. Any other comments on the quarterly report? Mr. Weekly, anything else?
I do know that we kind of sandwiched in Gibson Hollow Lane intersection improvement, kind of right behind the 6-year plan. So that's not really a public hearing. Maybe it's more appropriate to or whenever you
about it now.
choose, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go to the 6-year road improvement plan, or a secondary 6-year road improvement plan. Why don't we start with Gibson Hollow, and then we can roll into the well, that's probably not the better way. Let's start with Gibson Hollow, and then we can kind of have a full depiction of where we're at.
Yeah,
Marty?
that's kind of what I was thinking, Mr. Chairman, because if there are some folks here for, public comment on that, and what I'm going to propose to my colleagues here, the public might want to comment on that.
Please.
So, Ms. Shepherd, I am looking at your email to me on the 18th of April. We're talking about the entrance to Gibson Hollow Road. Now, that entrance is causing problems with a business in Madison County, which what I would like to propose, I'll start with that. I'd like to propose, you're talking about it would cost $30,000 to fix that for now, not the entire Gibson Holler, but just, I guess I would call it like an apron on steroids or something to, because right now, Mr. Elif from Ducard is having trouble with his tractor trailers. He uses tractor trailers to come in and bottle his wine, and they are dragging when they go over that little edge. Now, I met with you and Sean Nelson and two other gentlemen. I guess they were really the boots on the ground. It was cold that day. I remember that, so it was back in February or something, and looked at it. And I guess what's culminated is your email saying it would cost $30,000 to improve that for now. It's sort of a short-term fix. But not only are the tractor trailers impacted with this bottling, but there are some patrons that come in and out of there that have had some trouble too. And I went by there the other day to look at it again, and it struck me that so many automobiles now are front-wheel drive, so they pull right up to the edge of the asphalt, and then because of the incline, when they step on the gas, it's kicking the gravel out, so it's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So I would like to propose that we make a change to my colleagues up here. In the FY26, I'd like to take $30,000 out of Walker's Mill Lane line item, because we're not going to be able to finish that in FY26 anyway. FY27 as the remainder to use that $30,000 to fix the entrance to Ducard. So to my colleagues up here, this is a business. We had economic development discussions, and I think that it's important to support our businesses, and especially in this case. So I wanted to throw that out to you guys, see if you all agree with me, and see if this can be done.
Anybody have any issue with this?
I don't have any issue. I'm just curious, what's the long-term remedy for this situation? It sounds like it's going to have to be a long-term remedy there.
Yeah, want me to? Let me tell them as I understand it, Carrie, and then you can correct me. So the long term would be to improve Gibson Hollow Road, at least down to the entrance that goes over to the vent to the winery. Even though Gibson Hollow Road continues past that on up into, I don't know, for probably another 100 yards or so. Is that about right? To residences, which I've talked to the residents and they're not interested, but at least to go down there. So that's in the long run. I say we would probably have to put this back on the 6-year plan to get that on the schedule to finish the rest of it. Is that about right, Ms. Shepherd?
Yeah, the 30,000 estimate that we got was from one of our contractors, our paving contractor, and we were just talking about the issues out there, and we're just, full disclosure, not entirely sure that building up that asphalt is gonna actually solve the problem because of the grades, like you're mentioning. And then you're right, that the tie-in, if we were to really build it up, and it would need to be tied in a lot farther back than what we're proposing. But it can exacerbate a couple issues out there right now, which is the steep drop-offs on either side, because we're talking about raising it about a foot. So it's a substantial increase, but it's really the back end, the tie-in, that would be the longer-term solution to try to even that out. It's just the grades are just very difficult.
But for the short term, as Ms. Shepherd just said, it would exacerbate some of the issue we got now. So,
Mr. Ellis, how many times a year is that track trailer coming in? I'm just curious.
We also have a couple other tractor trailers that bring in barrels, so sometimes, bigger pieces of equipment we can buy and so forth. That's on the sort of back end of it. We can't bottle our wine, we can't, so.
Of course.
But on the consumer side also, in particular, sort of, sports cars and others who like to come in for wine tasting, they're low to the ground. And some of them tell us that they come there because of the scratch. Those are, customers that give us a lot of business and let's say, generate a lot of, sales tax revenue for the county. So we want to have those people come.
Yes, sir.
Can't get in a position where our reputation is that you can't go out and visit their business.
Understood.
So, Ms. Shepherd, so if our colleagues up here think this is a good idea and agree, can it be done? Can we do this?
Yeah, sure. We
Okay,
can make
all
whatever
right.
changes to the plan.
Thank you.
All right, everybody okay with
May-
that at this point?
Mr. Chairman, may I
Please.
ask Hannon, I'm going to throw this to you on the fly. Did we give you a microphone when you started? If not, I'm going to get Alan to look at you. Thank you, sir. So as advertised, and I think we may have added roads in the past, I just don't know from a procedural standpoint, if we're pulling money out of a road, that road would still stay on the plan.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing. But we wish to add monies and add Gibson Hollow Lane to this plan. Is that correct?
At the top of the list.
Just move some funding in the priority year from one road to Gibson Hollow Lane.
Well, we got Whippoorwill on here for 50,290, Ms. Shepherd, but that's complete, so what?
With the rural rustic program, you
Uh-huh.
have 2 years
Uh-huh.
to accomplish a project. So while like Whippoorwill or Walker's Mill Lane is spread over 2 fiscal years, we could build the entirety of Walker's Mill Lane this summer and then next year pay ourselves back. We do have that flexibility.
I see. I'm sorry, Mr. Rico.
No,
I
no,
cut
my
you off.
question, no, not at all, please, anytime. Hannon, my question is, do we need to re-advertise or anything? I mean, I think if we're adding to, we're not taking any road off, so that wouldn't be a significant change in my book, but.
I think that's right, based on that same analysis, that we're not taking anything off, but we're only adding another road. But I will start looking right now and correct that if I'm wrong.
Thank you, sir.
Potentially. That's the one that just came out. The question is if we take 30 from Walker's Mill, that would delay Walker's Mill an additional year. Is that right or wrong?
Not necessarily. It could affect your priorities in later years, but you have,
There you go.
so in fiscal year 26, you have the 57,955 dedicated to Walker's Mill to finish it off. But then you also have the 180 on Turner, 120 on Tom Johnston, and 10,000 on Mount Zion. So that would all get shifted to cover the 30
Want me to say
grand,
something
and
about
then it
that?
could push out.
Yeah.
We'd have to reshuffle the plan. I don't think it's gonna affect your priorities, but there's a possibility that like Mount Zion could get pushed out a year, potentially.
All right, I got one more. So, when we put the small portion of Emmett Road, we've completed that last summer. Was it last summer? Yeah. At the time, I had lobbied to have that short section of Emmett Road done, which is now done, and I also was lobbying to have the rest of it done later, which you'll see it's on the bottom of the list of Emmett Road. Well, when I'm starting to look at this today and thinking about how my request for the 30,000 now will cascade down through this stuff, I started calling the folks on Emmett Road. I called 8 of the folks on Emmett Road that live on that other part of it. 7 said they don't want it paved. They want it like it is.
How many people? You touched 8?
Yeah, I touched 8.
How many more are
That's
there?
probably half.
There you
probably
go.
50%.
Right.
So anyhow, as we shuffle, we shuffle it now and take Emmett Road off of there and then put Gibson Hollow down underneath of this in place of Emmett, or wait till next year's time and take Emmett off. And let me touch base with everybody. but
we have adjusted the 6-year plan after public comment in previous years. I would think that if we are talking about potentially pulling Emmett off, the second piece of Emmett, is that we should advertise it that way so everybody knows what it is and have them all come.
or leave it.
And I'm saying leave it as it is currently. And if next year, when we do the 6-year road improvement plan again,
Right.
Advertise it as it may be a deletion based on public comment that
Yep.
is obtained, and then we can go down that path. Does that work?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
There you go.
would do, is to leave it alone for now. But I wanted to throw that out because the cascading effect, you know, when we get down to that, it's likely a good chance that Emmett will come off and we will have substantial amount of money.
Additional funds, especially with it being on the
Correct.
tail of the list.
So anyhow,
All right, is everybody on board until we hear from public comment on moving 30K to deal with Gibson Hollow Road and the crest in the road, trying to fill it in so that we can get business going again? Does that work for everybody? Sure. All right. All right, that one, yes, ma'am.
So just to clarify, Emmett Road is currently listed as your priority 1, which we know is finished. Whippoorwill Road is number 2, or you have an updated plan. So Whippoorwill Road is number 1, Walker's Mill Lane is number 2, Turner Drive is number 3. Where in 1, 2, and 3 would you put Gibson Hollow?
Put it at the top,
one, yeah.
number 1.
So under Whippoorwill and above Walker's Mill?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. And if Whippoorwill's done, then it comes off the list anyway, correct?
It will. The
Okay.
only reason it's showing up still is because we
'Cause
just
of-
finished it, but we also have like closeout stuff we
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
do with the money.
Yes, ma'am. All right,
Would this change? How soon would this go into effect? When work start?
Changing the plan?
No, doing Gibson Hollow.
After the plan is approved, then we would work towards opening this project up to charges and getting our contractor out there. We don't have a schedule right
I mean,
now.
approximately, like, just.
It could happen this summer. Yeah, it would be this summer. The funds would be available July 1, and then probably mid to late August or July, we would have access to the money. So yeah, it's likely like maybe late summer is a better accurate.
Before harvest.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Other questions on this at this point? 6-year road improvement plan. Further comments on that, Ms. Shepherd, before I go to the public?
I do not know.
All right. Anybody have any questions for her from the board or administration? All right, to the public. 6-year road improvement plan. Please.
Good evening, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and the board. My name is Terry Bowden with Neela Farm, located on Walker's Mill Lane. Just talked about it, and it's on the 2nd year. Road plan is currently second priority behind Whippoorwill Road, which sounds like that's complete. I'm just here to support maintaining the secondary 6-year road plan schedule and have road improvements complete on Walker's Mill Lane under the Rural Rustic Program. Read between the lines, it looks like it. Understanding what we just talked about, understanding that the project may start maybe later this year, finish maybe in 2026. Is that the idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I thank you for your support, and also do want to thank you for all you men do for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden.
Scott, LF Ducard Vineyards. I just want to say thank you, guys. Appreciate your understanding and consideration and all this and moving things around so that we can get what we need to keep everything going. It's always nice and gratifying to hear somebody say, we'll rank you number 1 in the list of anything. So appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Other public comment? Other public comment? Alan, is anyone watching us online? 0 people watching. Good, we're down this month from 1. Yeah, all right, other public comment. Anything else? Back to the board. We do have a resolution 2025-9 that supports the 6-year plan for the secondary roads. I would assume that we should say the amended plan. Is that right or wrong, Hannon?
Yes, as amended.
As amended.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Shepherd. PowerPoint number 3. We're really doing well with exciting stuff this evening. FY26 budget. Ms. Warren, Mr. Weekly, who would like to present?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's going to be a joint effort. Jonathan does have one slide he's going to go through, but I'll kick us off. So quickly to go over the agenda for tonight's FY26 budget presentation, we're going to talk first about goals and priorities. That'll be Jonathan, Mr. Weekly. Next, we're going to just talk about some of the FY26 budget highlights and challenges that we had. FY26, the budget expenditure summary. We're going to talk to the budget breakdown by function. Our general fund revenues estimated are all county funds, our capital budget, and I'm also going to show a surrounding counties comparison and talk about Madison County taxes last 10 years and financial policies and fund balance. Jonathan, Mr. Weekly, I'm going to give it to you for the first slide.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Warren, and all your time and energy devoted into this. Just quick housekeeping. So this is your public hearing tonight after our presentation. We did not put a resolution because adoption can't occur until after 7 days of that. So we will have teed up, if you like what you hear tonight, May 27th for your official adoption, and then the appropriation would occur in June. The FY26 Madison County goals and priorities you see before you on the screen is based off of at least 2 workshop meetings I remember we had of discussing your priorities. So there were some things that came off, some things added. The main focus should be on item number 4. Was the board was very adamant about adding public utilities. Why, yes, these are what I call code-dependent goals. Madison County doesn't own the utilities. We are one of the 2 remaining member counties, though, of that utility. And in order to, as an Economic Development Committee just met prior to this meeting, in order to have some economic development, we have to have some upgrades of those facilities. So you have identified that you wish to have the water and treatment upgrade plan by the June 30th, 2026. I believe that would be showing where any pipeline upgrades. So think infrastructure, not necessarily the treatment. The treatment will be down at the bottom portion. Certainly if there's water treatment plans, they can share that. But any connection of the loop, like 29 Business North, for example, looping that around the Fishback and coming back around to eventually Oak Park Road. Service connection and service area policy, I probably should go back and capitalize that so I'm consistent. But that, in my opinion, is very, very important, especially if you are upgrading treatment facilities to make equivalent dwelling units available or connections available. You want to have a connection area established in a policy so they're not purchased like commodities, in my opinion. There are many people, especially along the Route 29 corridor, which is what you've designated for your business area. I would imagine you want that as your primary area and not just allow them to be gobbled up once an upgrade is complete. So that is a goal, and set that as well for June 30th, 2026. And then lastly, 4C, I've spoken with the general manager of RSA, so that target really comes from him. He didn't give me December as the month, but they anticipate the sewer treatment plant upgrade to be complete by December of 2027. Details forthcoming. In a meeting yesterday, it seemed like that would mean they would be shooting for the 160,000 gallon per day upgrade completion, not the 240,000 per day. So if that changes, I'll let you know. But what that means is the first phase It would allow about 400 EDUs of availability to be on the market. Once they get to that 240,000 gallon per day, that'll put them about 600 or 700 EDUs that they feel comfortable that'll be available for market. So I believe we captured your goals and priorities, but if not, please let me know. We'll make edits or add anything that you may want. But this is part of your budget book. This is also your direction that you give the staff every year. Things get put on, things get completed, new things get added. So just want to make sure we're capturing the board's will.
Goals and priorities. Please.
That follows on what Mr. Weekly saying about the service district. We talked about this at length in our Economic Development Committee meeting prior to this. And with all the moving parts that goes along with this, this is something that we need to jump on and make a priority. We want to be able to allocate these resources in such a way that it supports our comprehensive plan and our economic development plan. So I don't know how we can do that, but this is something that we need to move on sooner rather than later.
Very good. All right, please proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weekly. Talking about our budget highlights and challenges, just want to mention a couple of items. We did have the budget increased by $2,058,553, which was 5.8% from FY25. The following challenges were the bulk of that. The schools lost $1 million in federal and state funding according to their budget presentation. I know 400K of that was the all-in funds for Virginia, which ended. That resulted in a $678,000 increase in amount of local contribution needed, an additional increase that they requested. Also, our new public radio system is now fully operational, and we have about $347,000 in annual maintenance, equipment, and rental site costs annually for that. That's new in the budget this year, FY26. And then other public safety expenses increased about $582K, with the state covering a portion of that increase, which dealt with any sort of one-time bonuses that were in the budget. The state's covering some of those. All county personnel did receive a 3% COLA. Health insurance costs increased by 3.9%, and these two items increased personnel and fringe by roughly $300K. Now, to help offset these increases, we were able to, with the department's help, cut around $372,000 from our initial operating budget projection and requests that we received. Those cuts included having to remove any new FTE position requests and freezing certain vacant positions. The FY26 county budget, we also were able to balance it with the following sources of additional revenue. 2-cent increase in the real estate tax, which would bring an additional $560,000 in revenues, and accumulated unassigned fund balance of $1.4 million for operational balancing of the budget.
Real quick, last night, I attended the school board meeting, and the governor did not yank the funding for, I think they call it support staff. So a month ago at the school board meeting, they were saying if he did yank that, they were going to need another $167,000. Well, he didn't yank it, so it's all good. So good.
Support cap positions was fully funded?
Right.
Thank you, sir.
On the next slide, just a quick highlight of across the county functions, the increases. General government administration increased by only 0.9% between the two budgets. Judicial administration, 10.3%. Public safety, about right at 10%. Public works, right at 6%. Parks Rec, 4.7%. Economic and community development, right at 3%. And non-departmental is 5%, and that includes your transfers to other funds like PPA, CSA, and the schools. Next, just a quick, I broke it down for you by function, just as a recap so that you could see by department in that specific function what the difference between the FY '25 and '26 budget is. And you can see the change between the 2 years as well as the percentage change. The only thing I was going to highlight when it comes to the general government administration function budgets, the IT department manager did retire or is retiring, and there will be an increase needed in the personnel and fringe benefits for the 3 FTE positions. And there's no increase in number of FTE positions. It was just a rearrangement of position levels, and that's why you see the IT department at 9.3%. And that was the largest one in this category that I wanted to highlight. But overall, 0.9%.
Pretty good.
On judicial administration function, overall, 10.3%. The state will be covering, as I mentioned, a portion of the increase in the Commonwealth's attorney budget. So I guess I didn't mention that one, but her budget, or that budget, is going up by 26.5%. And that's a third attorney position that is partially grant funded. Also, the victim witness program is grant funded, and the county covers roughly 12,000 of the expense of this program. So that specific program, as you can see, is 88,333, and the county really is only covering 12K of that because we do get revenues for the additional in the grant. Any questions on judicial? Public safety. EMS's primary increase is due to 2 factors. There is a new requirement to purchase and stock medical supplies, and they will be leasing cardiac monitors and CPR devices at the 0% interest instead of purchasing these devices, which those would be capital expenses if they purchased them, but because they're leasing them, that adds to their budget. Sheriff's Department lost an SRO grant. However, the state will be covering a portion of the increase in the Sheriff's Department budget, as the state budget does include a 1.5% one-time bonus for comp board positions. And the state will be covering a bulk of the increase in the EOC, Emergency Communications, as the state budget does include a 6% increase in pay for dispatchers, as well as the 1.5% one-time bonus. Our building department personnel have received several important certifications that have increased salaries and benefits. They also have newer technologies for site visits. Rappahannock Juvenile Detention Center is a joint service, and all counties using the facility are seeing an increase because their budget increased in the compensation and benefits categories because they're having to compete with surrounding organizations. Our new public radio system is fully operational again. As I mentioned, $347,000 in additional costs. Animal control's primary increase is due to overtime wages. We only have 2 FTE employees, full-time employees, and an increase in call volume. They had 2,219 calls for service and complaints in 2024. Animal shelter's primary increase is due to the cost of veterinary services increasing, and our $20,000 per year match to the drug court program is now being paid out of the opioid settlement funds received by the county from numerous legal settlements. So those are the highlights I wanted to make on public safety departments. Any questions?
To point out, I know Mr. Chairman was at a meeting of public safety I was at. We have asked law enforcement to see if they could help with some of the traditional cows being out in the middle of the night to kind of help on the overtime animal control. So we appreciate their assistance, and we hope to see a positive impact on budget. Sorry, Mr.
On Public Works, the only thing we need to mention here, it is a 6% increase and it's primarily the transfer station. Our transfer station fees have increased 8%, and this is due to our vendor, AMRF is our vendor, and they're having to pass along an increase in the disposal rate they pay to waste management. It's pretty significant. I think the fees went up to them 8.44%. And they are also being charged energy surcharge on the bill, and another surcharge. So they have to pass along, unfortunately, those increases to us. Any questions on Public Works?
Nothing other than, and so our tipping fee went up too, so that, I guess.
Slight
that-
offset on
right,
revenue.
yeah.
On health and welfare, 2.4% of an increase overall. It's mainly the outside agencies, and the funding shows a 0% increase in those outside agencies unless they're using us, that's tied to a certain metric or statistic such as per capita. For example, the Encompass Community Supports is tied to that, and that's why there's a change or an increase of 12,000, but all other outside agency requests are flat funded. Education, Parks, Rec, and Cultural, and this is not including the schools, this is excludes schools. As you can see, again, Parks and Rec's increase is primarily due to the increase in hours of a part-time position. And again, outside agency funding, 0% increase unless it's tied to a metric or statistic like per capita. Any questions on this? And then economic and community development. As you scan through the list, you can see everything's pretty much a 0% increase or change, and those are the outside agency. And planning and zoning, economic development, those are 7.4% and 1.6%. Non-departmental, this is where we have the schools and our contribution to DSS and CSA, as well as capital. And again, the county's local contribution to the school board has increased by $678,000. That's a 6.6% increase. We're taking on additional debt funding for upcoming capital projects. The board is considering that, resulting in an increase of about $155,000 or 9%. That's where you see the debt service fund increase of 9%, because that does include that additional, assuming additional debt funding. The county and schools capital projects combined is roughly the same from last year. It's just flipped as far as the amounts go. The local contribution to Department of Social Services remains the same as fiscal year 25. The contribution to Children's Services Act, or CSA, increased by 11.1% or $75,000 in the budget. And then our contingency fund decreased this year because last year we had set aside extra contingency for a potential new position. Any questions on non-departmental? And this just quick snapshot of what our percentages are by function. So two largest, as you can see, are the schools at 31%. Public safety is at 29%. And the numbers on the left there for you, with a total of $35,413,865. And then to balance the budget on the revenue side, real estate, which is about 40%, real estate tax, which is 40% of our revenues, represents in this budget a 2-cent increase on the equalized tax rate. Property taxes, which are 17% of our revenues, includes no change to the tax rates. Interest and penalties on unpaid taxes includes interest income that we can earn on county bank and investment accounts, and late fees, penalties on unpaid taxes. Other local taxes includes the transient occupancy tax, local sales, restaurant, food, utility, motor vehicle, bank franchise, taxes on deeds. So that's what other local taxes. Permits, obviously, building-related permits, rezoning fees, special event fees. Court fines are any fines paid through the Madison courts. Use of money and property includes interest income, any rent that we receive on buildings. Charges for services includes ambulance transports, transfer station fees that we collect as a county, shelter adoptions. Miscellaneous, that includes our insurance claims, monies that we receive, rebates and refunds, and Transfers obviously includes the money we receive, well, that includes from the TOT fund. Federal funds includes any federal grant monies we receive. State, which is 11%, includes our cigarette tax, our PPTRA, which is reimbursement from the state, communications tax, state-related grants, and coin budgets, which are those constitutional officers' budgets and salaries that we get paid from the state. That number, just for your awareness, is $2,023,590, the coin budget revenues that come to the county for the constitutional offices. So right at $2 million. And fund balance, in this budget that we have here, we will be using $743,000 in unassigned fund balance for capital expenses related to vehicles and equipment. And we will be using about $695,000 in unassigned fund balance to balance the operating budget for a total of $1,438,600. So it's unassigned fund balance for capital related to vehicles and equipment and unassigned fund balance for just balancing the operating budget combined. And then the new debt service revenue, if the county does secure $4 million in new debt, we will be using right at $1,968,000 of that this upcoming fiscal year to pay for the FY26 projects. And then those are the ones not related to vehicles and equipment. And we anticipate earning about $158,000 in additional interest income because we will invest those funds into the SNAP program, which is a Virginia Local Government Investment Pool. So that interest income will pay the debt. It'll be a wash. Any questions on revenues?
Nothing other than look at real estate taxes, other local taxes, and property taxes, and that's 69% of their revenues from taxes. Local taxes, yeah. So that's why we're all working on that, right?
And then the all county funds breakdown so that you can see the county general fund is 48%, schools 36% of the overall county budget, and the debt service fund is 3%, CSA is 4%, and DSS is 5%, and the school food fund 2%. And then our opening appropriation fund balance is 2%. So that gives you the raw numbers on all funds, which increased from FY25 up by $3,051,808 to $70,246,017. So that's all county funds increase. And then on the capital funds, just wanted to highlight that we have $4,606,883 in capital expenses planned in FY26 in this budget. The funding sources, number one, grant funds for the broadband project are right at $1.3 million in grant funds. Carryover of funds in the capital are right at $592,000. New funding needed from fund balance, as I mentioned earlier, $744,000, and then new borrowed funds needed, $1,968,226. That gets us to cover the $4.6 million in capital needs. Any questions?
Yeah, just real quick. So I love that slide. You see several things going on. To the left are things that make up that fund balance at 743. So we're not asking you to debt service that. Certainly, we talked about debt service and we went through our capital list just like the schools went through theirs. The board gave us a directive at 4 million or less. So if you take that 743 off the 4.6, we would be at that. I want to be clear, though, we do not have, we're going to have other things to do. If you still want to borrow, we need to put together that final list. What's in here is things we already know about, whether it's vehicles or the roof. It's one of the buildings, I think it was CID in the transfer station, things like that, the fresh air units at Waverly. But those other items that make up the bulk of that 4 million, we're gonna have to bring that back and have you take action, but also if you wanna do debt service, whether it's commercial paper or whatever, we will probably work with Davenport based upon your direction and need to do that soon. So if the board, is that still your direction, unless you tell me otherwise, we would bring that, kind of that final list back. Tell us if that's what you wanna carry debt service for, and, then we'll take that objective to the market to bring you a proposal to look at.
Anything changed at this point? I think that's the path that we've all been
Yeah.
planning on going down. We're certainly looking forward to this, SNAP interest, to cover up, the debt service on that, and be able to facilitate the next 2 years' worth of CIP. So we do need to proceed down that path pretty promptly. Please proceed.
All right, and just on the surrounding counties' proposed rate slide that I put together, I just want to mention that this was a reassessment year for 4 of the 6 counties represented on this slide. And Madison County has the second lowest real estate and personal property tax rates behind Culpeper out of these 6. I did get an update this morning from Culpeper and a few other counties. Their Board of Supervisors in Culpeper adopted 2-cent increase on May 6th. So their real estate is now at 43 cents. What you see on the screen were their advertised rates. Green, they adopted no increase in equalized tax rate on April 22nd. And their real estate rate is 69 cents, flat funding for the schools, and 2% increase. Orange, their budget adoption is tonight. Their finance director anticipates a 4-cent increase, but that would make real estate for them at 62 cents. And Rappahannock, nothing final yet. Their board is leaning towards a 2-cent increase. Budget adoption's Thursday of this week, May 15th, which would bring their real estate tax to around 63 cents. So that's the update from the surrounding counties. And any questions on what it looks like with the surrounding counties?
And I would just add, while we talk, Jennifer covered real estate, take your eyes over to personal property as well. I mean, no one likes paying a tax, but I think we also very, very well against our neighboring counties in that area. So the board did take action. I know a lot of folks think you never reduce taxes. This was at $3.60 at one time. So it is good to know where we stand, even in personal property tax rates. So thank you, Ms. Warren, for getting those rates of surrounding jurisdictions.
The only comment, I think, and I'm pretty sure that everybody's on board, we advertised at 52 cents to the max for the 3. The proposed budget that we're hearing currently is at 51.
Yes, 2 cents increase.
So that's still the direction of a 2-cent increase on real estate, leaving personal property taxes at what they were, and the minor fee adjustments that we made at the last meeting. All right, please proceed.
That's correct. All right. Again, this is a slide for the last 10 fiscal years. As you know, we just completed our county reassessment, which occurs every 4 to 5 years. And then you can see we decreased from 74 cents to 49 cents per hundred of assessed value with the reassessment. Despite the rate of inflation over the last 10 years, with the 10-year average being 2.4%, county administration has worked hard to keep taxes as low as possible. Madison County has increased real estate taxes by only 6 cents over the last 10 years. I did want to mention that.
Thank you.
And then financial policies, just wanted to show the board and the public that we did do an analysis of the key financial policies and what they look like in this budget presentation. I won't go through all of them unless you want me to, but this just shows you exactly where we are and the fact that we do meet all of the key financial metrics. Any questions on the financial metrics?
Anybody?
No,
Nope.
good.
Very good.
Okay.
Ms. Warren.
And then fund balance is my last slide. It's broken down into the 5 categories, and then within assigned fund balance, there's 3 different reserve policies that we looked at on the previous slide. Unassigned fund balance, as you know, is broken down into I've broken it down into two categories, restricted and non-restricted. I'm gonna start showing it that way. Unassigned fund balance restricted includes the county's mandatory rainy day reserve fund and the asset maintenance, replacement, and enhancement policy calculation. And unassigned fund balance unrestricted is whatever's left over. Our unassigned fund balance must always be at or above the rainy day reserve fund amount plus the asset maintenance amount. So I wanted to point that out. And as you can see for FY '26 in this budget, what the unassigned restricted and unassigned non-restricted would look like, or estimated. And all policies, again, all financial policies are met.
Everybody good on that one? Please.
Thank you for your time. I will now turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments at this point before we go to public? Absolutely, absolutely. That's right.
Thank you.
Mr. Weekly, anything?
I'm
Please,
sorry.
go ahead.
So this presentation, is that going to show up in other places besides our agenda packet today on our website? Because this explains everything.
Yes, sir. We do have a place on the county's website under finance
Yeah.
that has, if anyone wants to go to the budget section, it gives all of these different,
You will find this presentation
right.
there?
We'll make
Okay,
sure it's
good.
we'll make sure it's put there. Right now, it's just on the other part of the website, but we'll make sure it goes under the budget section as well.
It needs to be. And this gives the ability for citizens to take a look and see exactly what everything is. And then the historical data that goes along with it just adds clarity to the whole depiction.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is just a suggestion to consider for the future. But I know navigating through the county website, and it's pretty well organized, but I wonder if we could have a prominent set of links on the front, frequently accessed documents or frequently requested documents, because people want to go to the budget, or they want to look at the comprehensive plan. Well, it's right there on the home page, versus having to drill down and find. I don't know, just something, suggestion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, I agree. It needs to be on there. This is one that people are going to hit us on.
So we can, to Jennifer's point, it'll definitely go towards the department page, but the main homepage has a section Madison News, so we can put it there. As far as the budget tab, there are what we would call frequent links, if you will. So whether you're going to your agendas and minutes or budget lives right there as well. Actually, your historical budgets are there as well. So you can not only see the workbook that, this is just your slideshow presentation, but there's a lot of other work that's gone into this. That'll be on that page as well. So, fantastic. Yes, those are this is on the main page, Mr. Jewett. So budget will go there. We'll upload that presentation there, but we also, you can see down the middle page, Madison News. So anything new, we can put it there. You can see that's where the public hearing is, or BOE information. So we will be sure to load that on the main page.
Very good. All right, to the public.
Thank you.
To the public.
We may need to go
Any
back to the
public
budget in
comment
case
on
the,
the proposed FY
public-
'26 budget? Any comments? All right, public hearing is closed. Back to the board. We do have to wait 7 days till we can adopt this. Do that at the second meeting in May. I don't know, I've been talking about budgets for a while. I mean, we're at the point we need additional revenue. It is exceedingly clear, with Ms. Warren and Jonathan and Brian and Ms. Turner and all of county staff. This is about as cut and dry of a budget as you can get. There's not a whole heck of a lot more to cut. It is needs-based, and definitely not wants. Seeing over the last 10 years, the 6-cent increase is pretty amazing, if you really want the honest truth. Going through all the different categories of percentage of increase, we're still at something like 4.9% increase. Is that correct, Ms. Warren?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that slide just to validate, but
Yeah, 5% on non-department. It's pretty much it. I mean, it is a big thing. We need to find additional revenue, with the Economic Development Committee working on it and going to the board, and the Planning Commission certainly looking at business development, in every way. It needs to be at the top of what we are working on. We're just gonna have to keep going back to the citizens if we don't.
Could we put a brief report on the agenda for our next regular meeting from the Economic Development? Because it is aggressively going after stuff.
Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have comments on this? All right, we'll make some decisions here in 7 days. Please email us comments if you've got any. All right. School zone speed, and thank you, Ms. Warren, that is a great report, even though it's on PowerPoint. School zone speed camera enforcement draft ordinance and draft contract. Mr. Weekly, quickly.
Yes, so basically, you all have seen this before. The new thing is, as you know, in speaking with Hannon and him working and reviewing, because this is a civil fine, you would need to have an ordinance. So there was a draft ordinance prepared. I think not only Mr. Wright, I believe Ms. Berry also took a review of this. So if you have questions or suggestions for the draft, please let us know. Staff recommends that if you like the ordinance, to set the public hearing date for June 10th, which is your first business meeting in June. And then the draft contract, forgive me, what I didn't put in your packet was an email back from Mr. Campbell, who's the representative of Blue Line. All the changes that Mr. Wright proposed, which you can see his comments in this document, was accepted by Blue Line. However, before any contract can be entered into by myself, it is your job to have oversight and review. So Mr. Wright has reviewed that, as well as myself. So next steps would be, if you want to move forward, June 10th would be a public hearing. If you want to adopt the ordinance, you can do so, and then authorize me and/or Hannon or both to execute the contract. So that's where we're at in the process.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we advertise for this June 10th for the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Good with all this, Hannon?
To keep working with Jonathan and Blue Line on the exact wording of the contracts, but we got time for hammering that out. And then the other thing I'd point out to you is the statute allows for a maximum of up to $100. I put $100 in there. Y'all could make it less if you decided to, but that's, and there will be a couple other things for y'all's decision points, I guess, but no issues.
Any further comment on this one?
No, sir.
June 10th, let's do a public hearing. Going to new business, employee bonuses, Mr. Weekly.
Yes, and actually, this started by a request from Ms. Ward, and thank you for sitting through all the wonderful work the board's done. For the state employees, specific at DSS, but this has now come to light that this draft ordinance would be needed to cover constitutional offices and other one-time bonuses. This ordinance, and Mr. Wright can correct me if I'm wrong, it does not guarantee you will give this bonuses every year, but the ordinance is the mechanism to allow for it. I learned a lot from, there's a manual actually on this for Virginia DSS and then the local DSS. So that's what requires this statute. I do not believe there will be any new local monies, Ms. Ward, within your FY26 budget. This would be covered. But in order for those monies to be used, this ordinance. There's also bonuses for the constitutional officers. This ordinance, am I calling it right, ordinance? Yes, would cover that. So,
And this is all state money.
yes.
it's the constitutional officers and the positions within those offices, which some Some of the positions are not state funded, but.
Yes, ma'am. All right, June 10th, another public hearing on this ordinance for the one-time bonuses. Everybody good? Comments, thoughts? What would y'all like to do?
So this, yes, I'm sorry, I was tracking the action. So yeah, your public hearing would be then, which would allow you to do this effectively July 1, if you so choose to adopt.
Probably need a motion on that one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the public hearing for employee bonuses for June 10th.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Further discussion?
I-
Please.
No, I still don't understand the need for this ordinance, but be it as it is. One of these days, somebody explain this to me, why you have to do this.
We don't have enough ordinances.
Huh?
We don't have enough ordinances.
Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Hannon?
I didn't know anything about this until it came up from DSS, and so then I'll encourage y'all to read the statute. It's fairly short, but it basically says to do these bonuses, it needs to be done by ordinance. So looking at what different counties have done, they've either made it so that it's a published ordinance, so it'll say 2010 Fairfax authorizes a firefighter bonus, and it's.
So you don't have to do it year after year after year.
Right, and so this was more, I think Caroline County did it this way, which is give it kind of a blanket authorization saying we're allowed, giving this to ourselves. I put in the last line of that thing that we would do this by resolution after a public hearing, just because of my sense from you all is that the way that we kind of like to do business in terms of transparency. So, but none of this is set in stone. So even where I decided to put it in terms of the ordinances, so this didn't come up from on high. We can change as you see fit.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Yeah, just basically state statute.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just passing it down to us. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, committees, board update. Mr. Turner, we've got some people queued up for the IDA.
Yes, we went and advertised for the Industrial Development Authority, and we received applications from Mr. David Jones and Mr. Frank Berry. So those are before you tonight for your consideration. Also, the Central Virginia Regional Jail Authority, which the county has representation on. They have an at-large member, which each participating jurisdiction has a rotation on as an at-large member, and Madison County is required to have their at-large member starting July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. So I would like the board's direction on whether or not you'd like to advertise or if you had someone in mind.
It sounds like for the jail board, Cardy's working on somebody to go on to that would be very qualified. He's checking with his firm, and hopefully
Yeah, I
we'll
should-
hear something soon.
He said he'd call me tomorrow, so, okay.
That's pretty good, and we can still advertise if that falls through. We do have David Jones and Frank Berry that are willing to serve on the IDA. And neither of them are here, so I would think that we should appoint them immediately. What would y'all like to do?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Mr. David Jones and Philip Frank Berry to the IDA for a 4-year term.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we'll be back in touch with you, Ms. Turner, and if you could send letters to those two, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've already covered the EMS station open house. That's gonna be on May 24th. From what times, Noah?
We'll put it on the screen. It's 12 to 4 p.m. Mr. Chairman, the reason why I put this as new business in our agenda review, it was discussed maybe to allow you all be there, we'll schedule this as a public meeting. Certainly, if you want to stay in session for 4 hours, you can do so. You don't have to. But if you all are going to, 3 or more will be there, we'll advertise it per your direction. So that's really, you can take action if you wish, and then we'll advertise that as a special meeting. The goal there is really to highlight this for the community and Noah and his team. They'll have folks there to kind of walk through and explain all the gadgets in the station. But really, if you were in that building prior, definitely go to it now. I think you will be very pleased, but maybe even shocked. I think it's very functional, very safe. I think Mr. Gordon as well with his work on that project. So it's a chance to highlight it. We know it's not perfect. We know it's new to us, but it's safe, it's functional, and something to be proud of. Chief, anything you'd like to add? Mr. Gordon, anything you'd like to add, sir? So-
All right, I do think we should advertise that as a meeting. It gives us all protection. We can come into session in an awkward way, and then adjourn whenever the heck we start filing out of there.
It'll be like your groundbreaking ceremony without the shovels, how we
Yeah,
did it,
no,
how we did at
no,
Hoover Ridge.
Thank God we don't need more shovels. I hope they returned them. Let's have a meeting, let's advertise and move on.
I will say, Chief, I didn't catch you while you were on vacation. If you have more of those foul of lives or anything to distribute, because the chairman and I spoke about that, this will be a good time to do that, sir.
Yeah, be great. Anybody got anything else on that one? All right. No other new business discussion, subdivision and site plan.
Yeah,
ordinance.
I'll cover this one, and
Yeah.
I may bring Hannon as well. And we have Mr. Smith here, who's doing some work on it as well for us. So the Senate bill was passed and signed into law by the governor. There were some changes in subdivision ordinance and site plan ordinance. Basically, the way your review and approval process, things went through the planning commission, ultimately Board of Supervisors, the governing body, who made decisions. The way the changes will occur now after July 1st, you need to amend your ordinance because it doesn't reflect it. Those items will be handled by your designated agent. By my title, I'm your designated agent or my designee, and that's how things, even before this ordinance.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah, I've got my badge in here. But that's how designee already worked, because that's what Alan does for us as planning and zoning administrator, but we need to amend the ordinance. Hannon, Alan, and myself have talked about it, as well as Mr. Smith is doing some work. So we're gonna collectively put all that body of work together so we have the same version. I would like to have a draft before the board by May 27th. This may be a simple cursory, or some of the things I'm gonna say simple cursory of removing planning commission and putting in, all that language. Mr. Smith is also working on it. There's Article 16 deals with development impact. That too is approved by the board, but if you don't address that, you can have site plans and everything approved by the zoning administrator. How would you know you need a development impact study? Because you're not seeing those things. So we're gonna collectively work on that. Mr. Wright, anything you'd like to add?
I think, based on the timing of this, is we're basically going to put a hasty Band-Aid on this. We may have to do a much deeper look and scrub later. I think the other one to think about how this gets implicated is, and from what I can tell, it's been sort of a age-old debate about what's considered a completed application. So, because there's some fairly severe timelines that are getting imposed by the statute too. So that's another thing that we're probably going to have to try to define pretty quickly here.
This bill is very developer friendly. The turnaround times are very short now. The review comments, you hope you catch everything on round one, because if they address your round one comments, you get to round two, you're not throwing new things on there. So it's very developer friendly. So we want to get it right. We will get it right. It's just a fast change by the General Assembly, if you will.
All right.
Mr. Jewett, I know we talked a little earlier at the Economic Development Committee. I think maybe we talked about the preference. I know we have Planning Commission and we have Economic Development Committees. I know we're going to meet again. We haven't put this on the website yet, but we'll advertise 4:30, May 27th. But I think what we'll do is have staff and maybe a collaboration between Mr. Smith and Mr. Nichols introduce this to the Planning Commission on the 21st. We don't want any hard feelings, and most of them may be aware, but at least let them know the process was being worked on, and then have the Economic Development Committee see that draft. And most of your committees give you a recommendation, or they support, here's a version they support. You ultimately, as a body, make that decision. That's kind of the next steps of when those drafts, who will see that and when it will come to you.
Please.
Jonathan, have we had any interest from developers after this has come into effect, or it's gonna be coming into effect July 1st, right?
Correct.
Have we, anybody been knocking on our door or calling off the hook?
There is one sizable landowner that is, I don't think they've dropped their application yet. I think they may be waiting until July 1.
Gotcha.
And that's going to be the trick, sir, is, yes, we have PDRC. That was something I thought about, was how can we legally put things through that rezoning you can before they drop application, but, you know, to try to get some additional comments and additional eyes on it. Alan's very capable, I'm not saying that, but short turnaround time, that's a lot to ask of any person. So, again, it's concerned, if something that wasn't on the regional platform, I shared this with the EDC earlier, Madison is part of the Rapidan Regional Commission, and we have a certain lobbyist, but Fauquier County also has a contract with a different lobbyist as well. So we had two sets of eyes, and this was something that was not on that list. So really got to watch that legislation. This one got through, and now we're dealing with it. So.
Yeah, in my opinion, our only gate here is defining what constitutes a complete application, right? We got to load it up.
And directly, that will affect developers in a negative way, in its own way. I really want to ask if everybody's good with this, but I suspect nobody is good with this at all, and it takes away the citizens' checks and balances, and that's unfortunate.
I don't have anything in front of me tonight. I do think it's worthy of mentioning. It's germane to this topic. Madison County hasn't traditionally got a lot of site plans come through development, and definitely not in volume. I did speak with a company known as the Berkeley Group. They have many professionals, whether human resource, finance, zoning is one of their bread and butters. So if we ever get in a capacity issue, I've asked them to send cooperative procurement agreements, so Hannah and I can review that, and maybe, while certainly I'm not sitting here, say, consulting on everything, you can have a service agreement as kind of retainage, but not have to pay until you use it. But I'd rather have a safety net there if you start getting larger things to maybe help with that review process. But that's something we can talk at another time in the future. We need to get the ordinance moving first. But I have put that in play to at least explore it, cost, and what's in that agreement.
Everyone understand what's being proposed and the direction that we're going. Thank you. All right, Lions Club Award Banquet.
Yes, Kim, I don't know if you had the invitation. I will not make that. I believe that means that will be on May 20th. Pretty sure it's May 20th because I got an appointment then. I would encourage, if you are able to go, at least 2 members or 1 member. It's good to have representation. Yes, they recognize you when you're there, and it's a great meal. It will be at Grays Mountain Lodge again, I believe. That's where this is held every year. I know Sean Gregg and I went one year. We had a good time. Miss Graham often goes. So if you like, no pressure. But I did tell Miss Long I would solicit the board, so my assignment is done here tonight. So
Yeah, I'm going.
all right. So Kim will notify that. Any other
I'll let
members?
her
Just
know.
so we'll.
Already.
All right. So we have 2 members. And Kim will RSV on your behalf if you would like, sir. Okay. I do not know if they waive board members' cover charge, so Kim will
No,
get you
they
that
don't.
information as well. So
They
I'm not
do
saying they
not.
would turn you away, I'm just saying. Bud
Which
Craig's
is
usually at
fine,
the
you know,
door collecting money,
my
so.
contribution to the Lions Club, if nothing else, I don't, whatever.
All right.
Okay. Anything else? Public comment. Public comment. All right, back to the board. We do have a closed session. Thank you all.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation.
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.